In the shadowed halls of Harrington Manor, nestled amid the fog-shrouded moors of 1930s Devonshire, a chill wind whispered secrets through cracked casements. Lord Archibald Harrington, custodian of the fabled Ivory crown, an ancient relic carved from elephant tusk, said to bear the curse of betrayed African kings, lay slumped in his leather-bound study. A single gunshot echoed in memory, the pistol clutched in his rigid hand, a suicide note scrawled in trembling ink. The crown's betrayal ends here. Yet as the grandfather clock struck midnight, a faint scent of bitter almonds lingered, unseen by the gathering household. Who among them harbored the venomous heart to orchestrate such a deception? The game was afoot, and the little gray cells would soon awaken. Chapter 1. The Shadowed Manor. The wind howled across the Devonshire moors, a mournful wail that seemed to carry the weight of ancient secrets. Harrington Manor stood resolute against the gathering storm, its Gothic spires piercing the twilight sky like the jagged teeth of some forgotten beast. Ivy clung to its weathered stone facade, curling around mullioned windows that glowed faintly with the flicker of gaslight. Within those walls, a tragedy had unfolded, one that would summon the meticulous mind of Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective whose little gray cells were already stirring, though he had yet to set foot on the gravel drive. It was Lady Evelyn Harrington who first shattered the silence of that fateful evening in 1933. Her scream, sharp and piercing, echoed through the cavernous halls, rousing the household from their disparate corners. She had retired early, citing a headache that demanded solitude, but insomnia had driven her to her husband's study, a sanctum of leather-bound tomes and polished mahogany. The heavy oak door creaked open, revealing a scene that would haunt her dreams for years to come. Lord Archibald Harrington, patriarch and guardian of the fabled Ivory crown, slumped lifeless over his desk. His hand, rigid in death, clutched a pearl-handled pistol, its single shot still ringing in the later, her silk dressing gown hastily tied, her gaze darting from the body to the crown with a calculating intensity that belied her youth. The air was thick with the scent of old leather, cigar smoke, and something else, faint, bitter, like almonds crushed underfoot. Lady Harrington, her pearl necklace glinting in the lamplight, sank into a chair, her composure fracturing like fine porcelain. "He was alive. Just hours ago," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the ticking of the grandfather clock, which struck midnight with a somber toll. The household stood frozen, each member a statue in their own tableau of shock, suspicion, or secrets. Inspector Japp of Scotland Yard arrived with the dawn, his mustache bristling with the confidence of a man who preferred simple explanations. He surveyed the study with a practiced eye. The pistol, the note, the undisturbed crown. "Suicide, plain as day," he declared, tapping the note with a gloved finger. "Lord Harrington was under strain. Debts, family quarrels, that cursed relic." But the family's whispers told a different story. Lord Harrington had been embroiled in disputes over the Ivory crown, an artifact acquired during a colonial expedition decades prior. Its legend spoke of a curse. Betrayal of its sacred trust brought ruin. Reginald, drowning in gambling debts, had begged his father to sell it. Eliza, ever the modernist, sought its auction to fund her studies abroad, clashing with her father's reverence for tradition. Lady Harrington, poised yet distant, faced rumors of her husband's infidelity, her own fidelity questioned in hushed tones. And then there was Mr. Victor Blackwell, an antiquarian who had dined at the manor that very evening, his envy for the crown as palpable as the fog outside. Graves, the butler, moved silently, offering tea to the inspector with a deference that bordered on mechanical. His calloused hands, unusual for a man of his station, caught Japp's eye, but the inspector dismissed it. "Old war wounds, perhaps," he muttered, focusing instead on the suicide note. A family friend, alarmed by the news, sent a telegram to London. "Urgent, Harrington Manor, suspicious death, request Poirot." The inspector scoffed, but the family's unease was palpable. The crown, under its glass dome, seemed to watch, its carved figures frozen in eternal betrayal. Had Lord Harrington taken his own life, driven by the weight of debts or a cursed legacy? Or had someone orchestrated a murder, cloaked in the guise of suicide? The study held more secrets. A ledger, partially hidden beneath a blotter, detailed loans to Reginald, sums that could ruin the estate. Another entry, marked E.B., hinted at payments to an unknown party. Lady Harrington paled when questioned, insisting it was a clerical error. Yet her eyes darted to Blackwell, who had lingered too long in the manor's halls. Eliza, meanwhile, hovered near the crown, her fingers tracing the air above its case, as if drawn to its power or its value. Graves, ever watchful, noted a discrepancy. The tea tray he delivered had been moved, the cup half empty. "His lordship drank sparingly," he remarked, his voice low. Japp dismissed it, but the detail gnawed. The pistol, too, bore only Lord Harrington's prints, yet its position seemed staged, the grip too perfect for a man in his final throes. As the household dispersed, Eliza lingered, her gaze fixed on the crown. "Father believed it was cursed," she murmured, almost to herself. "He said betrayal would bring death." Reginald, overhearing, scoffed. "Superstition. He was crushed by our debts, my debts, I'll admit." Lady Harrington, rising, clutched her shawl. "Enough. We must wait for the coroner." But the coroner would not unravel this web. Only one man could. As the storm gathered strength, a chauffeured car approached, carrying Hercule Poirot, his impeccable suit a stark contrast to the chaos awaiting him. The manor's doors groaned open, and the little Belgian stepped into a world of shadows, secrets, and a single, damning question. Who had betrayed the ivory crown? A sudden gust extinguished a candle, plunging the hall into darkness.
Nothing. The ivy strangling the stone, the uneven slant of a shutter, the faint glow of a lamp in an upper window. "Mon ami," he greeted Inspector Japp, who stood at the entrance, his overcoat flapping like a disgruntled crow. "You summoned Poirot for a suicide? Surely there is more to this affair than meets the eye." Japp, his moustache twitching with a mix of irritation and relief, ushered Poirot inside. "It's a messy business, Poirot. Lord Harrington, shot in his study, note in his hand. Clear as day, but the family's kicking up a fuss. Superstition about that blasted ivory crown." He gestured toward the study, where the relic sat under its glass dome, its carved figures of betrayed kings seeming to pulse with silent accusation. Poirot's eyes narrowed, his nostrils flaring slightly as he caught a faint, bitter scent. Almonds. Elusive yet unmistakable. "Cyanide, perhaps?" he murmured almost to himself. "Mixed with the gunshot to confuse the method? Most ingenious." The study was a tableau of frozen tragedy. Lord Archibald Harrington's body had been removed, but the scene remained untouched. The mahogany desk, strewn with papers. The pearl-handled pistol, now bagged for evidence. The suicide note, its ink jagged and uneven. The ivory crown dominated the room, its bone-white surface catching the dim light, its intricate carvings depicting elephants in mourning. their trunks raised in eternal lament. Poirot circled it slowly, his gloved fingers hovering above the glass. "This crown," he said, "it is not merely an artifact, no? It is a symbol of betrayal, of trust broken. And betrayal, mes amis, is the heart of this mystery." Jap recounted the facts. The gunshot at 9, heard by a maid. The note declaring the crown's curse. The family's alibis, each flimsier than the last. Lady Evelyn Harrington claimed solitude in her room, yet footsteps echoed near the study. Reginald, the wastrel son, swore he was carousing in the billiard room, but cigarette stubs in the garden told another story. Eliza, the daughter, insisted she was reading, the necklace a stark contrast to her pallor. "My husband was tormented by the crown's legend," she said, her voice low but steady. "It came from a colonial expedition in the 1890s. The natives warned that betrayal of its trust brought death. Archibald believed it, to his peril." Her hands twisted a lace handkerchief, betraying her composure. Reginald, slouched in an armchair, reeked of brandy and defiance. "Poppycock," he scoffed, draining a glass. "Father was overwrought by debts, my debts, I'll own. He threatened to sell the estate, crown and all." His eyes flicked to his sister, who stood by the window, her modern bob framing a face both delicate and fierce. Eliza's voice cut like a blade. "Or by your extravagance, brother dear. Father refused to sell the crown because it was our legacy. I wanted it auctioned, to fund my studies, yes, but also to free us from its shadow." Mr. Graves entered with tea, his movements precise yet heavy, as if carrying an unseen burden. Poirot noted his calloused hands, incongruous for a butler. "Monsieur Graves, you have served the Harringtons long?" The butler nodded. 30 years, sir, since the master's father." Poirot pressed. "And you polished the crown yesterday?" Graves's eyes flickered. "Yes, sir. Part of my duties." Poirot smiled enigmatically. "Most interesting." Victor Blackwell was summoned, his lean frame and sharp eyes radiating ambition. "I dined with Archibald to discuss the crown," he admitted. "I offered a fortune, but he refused. A pity." His gaze lingered on the relic, hungry and unapologetic. Poirot's mustache quivered. "A pity, monsieur, or a motive?" The interviews revealed a tapestry of motives. Reginald's debts were a noose around the family's finances, his argument with his father hours before the death a matter of record. Eliza's desire for independence clashed with her father's traditionalism, her plan to auction the crown a betrayal in his eyes. Lady Harrington, rumored to have endured her husband's infidelity, carried her own secrets, whispers of a past liaison with Blackwell tracing the relic's surface. Polished, yes, but with what? He sniffed again, his expression darkening. Cyanide. Absorbed through the skin, perhaps. A slow poison, masked by the gunshot. Jap protested. The pistol had only his prints. Poirot waved a hand. Prints can be arranged, mon ami. The note, too. Its script is uneven, as if traced. A maid hovering nearby offered a clue. A teacup, half empty, moved from its tray. His lordship always drank slowly, she whispered. Poirot's eyes gleamed. And who prepared the tea? Graves admitted to serving it, but Lady Harrington had poured it. A subtle glance passed between them, unnoticed by Jap, but not by Poirot. As evening fell, the storm intensified, lightning illuminating the manor's grim silhouette. Poirot paced the study, his mind assembling fragments. The glove, the ledger, the scent, the misplaced tea tray. He paused at the fireplace, where a faint ash mark suggested a burned paper.
A draft, perhaps, or evidence destroyed? He knelt, retrieving a charred scrap, barely legible, but bearing the word betrayal. The household gathered for dinner, their voices strained, each word a potential trap. Eliza spoke of the crown's curse, her tone mocking yet uneasy. Father said it punished traitors. Perhaps he betrayed it by refusing to sell. Reginald slammed his fist. Enough of this nonsense! He was driven to it by us, by me. Lady Harrington rose, her face ashen. No more. We await the coroner. But Poirot's attention was elsewhere. A sudden crash echoed from upstairs. A vase shattered in Eliza's room, she claimed, by accident. I was startled, she said, but her eyes darted to the shadows. Poirot's grey cells hummed. A diversion, perhaps? To hide a clue? Or to retrieve one? He followed her upstairs, noting a faint scuff on the carpet, a shoe, too large for Eliza's delicate frame. In her room, a drawer stood slightly ajar, a silk scarf hastily tucked inside. Poirot lifted it, revealing a folded
Begun. The storm had not relented, its fury lashing Harrington Manor as if to unearth the secrets buried within its ancient walls. By mid-morning, the air inside was heavy with suspicion, each glance between the household members a silent accusation. Hercule Poirot, his impeccable suit a stark contrast to the gloom, paced the manor's library, its towering bookshelves groaning under the weight of leather-bound tomes on history, mythology, and colonial exploits. The ivory crown, still under its glass dome in the study, seemed to cast a long shadow, its carved figures of betrayed kings whispering of treachery. Poirot's moustache twitched as he surveyed the room, his little grey cells humming with the puzzle before him. The motive, he murmured. It lies not in the crown alone, but in the hearts of those who covet it, or fear it. Inspector Japp, nursing a cup of tepid tea, stood by the fireplace, his patience fraying. It's a suicide, Poirot, mark my words. The note, the gun, the man's troubles, debts, family squabbles, that cursed relic. But Poirot's eyes gleamed with quiet dissent. Non, mon ami. A suicide does not leave the scent of almonds in the air, nor a glove misplaced with such precision. We are dealing with murder, staged with care. He summoned the suspects one by one, his method as meticulous as a surgeon's. Observe the eyes, the twitch of fingers, the hesitation in speech. Each interview was a thread in the tapestry of deception he was determined to unravel. Lady Evelyn Harrington was first, her black mourning dress absorbing the dim light, her pearl necklace a faint glimmer of her former elegance. She sat rigidly, her hands clasped, as if to anchor her composure. My husband was consumed by the ivory crown, she said, her voice low but steady. It came from an expedition in the Congo, 1892. The natives spoke of a curse. Betray its trust, and death follows. Archibald believed it, especially after recent tensions. Poirot tilted his head. Tensions, madame? With whom? Her eyes flickered. The clear as crystal. Inheritance to settle a mountain of gambling debts, perhaps hastened by a bullet. Yet his bravado faltered when Poirot mentioned the cigarette case found in the garden. Not mine, he protested, but his flush betrayed him. Eliza Harrington entered with the poise of a woman who knew her own mind, her modern bob framing a face both delicate and defiant. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, met Poirot's without flinching. I wanted to auction the crown, she admitted. Father called it betrayal of our legacy. But I saw it as freedom, funds for my studies in Paris, a life beyond this mausoleum. She claimed to have been in the garden during the fatal hour, sketching the moors, but the torn hem of her dress suggested haste. perhaps flight. "I caught it on a rose bush," she said, but Poirot noted the tear's precision as if deliberate. "And the sketch you made, mademoiselle?" She hesitated. "Lost in the storm." Her motive gleamed, independence at the cost of her father's pride. Mr. Graves, the butler, was next, his gaunt frame moving with the precision of a metronome. His calloused hands, an anomaly for his station, drew Poirot's attention. "You have served long, monsieur?" Graves nodded. 30 years, sir, since the master's father." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And your time in Africa? Rumors place you on the expedition that claimed the crown." Graves paled, his voice steady but strained. "I was there, yes, as a young man. A porter, nothing more." He admitted polishing the crown that afternoon and serving tea at 7, noting Lord Harrington's agitation. "He spoke of betrayal," Graves said. "But not by whom?" Poirot pressed. "And these calluses? From polishing or something else?" Graves' silence was answer enough. Victor Blackwell, the antiquarian, was last, his lean frame and sharp eyes radiating a predatory ambition. He sat with calculated ease, his fingers drumming lightly. "I dined with Archibald to negotiate for the crown," he said. "I offered £50,000, a fortune. He refused, citing family honour." His lips curled. "A pity." Poirot's moustache quivered. "You let—" "Almond scent, strongest near the crown. Hinted at cyanide, perhaps applied to its surface or inhaled in a moment of ritualistic inspection." A red herring emerged, a silver chalice in the study, its rim faintly discolored, suggesting poison. Poirot tested it with a reagent from his pocket case, confirming no toxin. "Untouched," he murmured. "A distraction, placed after death to mislead." Japp scoffed. "You're seeing conspiracies, Poirot." But the Belgian's smile was serene. "Conspiracy, no. Calculation, oui." He questioned the maid again, a nervous girl named Clara. She confirmed the tea tray's displacement and added a detail, a faint clink of glass in the study at 8, as if something were moved. "Like a bottle, sir," she whispered. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A bottle, perhaps, of polish or poison?" As night deepened, the manor seemed to close in, its shadows lengthening. Poirot returned to the study, his gloved fingers tracing the crown's case. The almond scent was unmistakable now, concentrated near the relic's base. "The poison was here," he said to Japp, who frowned. "But the chalice—" Poirot waved a hand. "A ruse, mon ami. The killer wished us to look elsewhere." A sudden discovery shifted the puzzle. An anonymous letter, slipped under the library door, its typed words stark. "The crown's curse is man-made." Poirot held it to the light, noting the typewriter's uneven keys, a model in the manor's office, perhaps. "Someone wishes to guide us," he said, "or to deceive." He summoned the household briefly, observing their reactions. Lady Harrington's hands trembled. Reginald's eyes darted. Eliza's lips tightened. Graves remained impassive. Blackwell smirked. "A prank," the antiquarian said, but Poirot's gaze silenced him. "A prank, monsieur, or a confession?" The letter's implications swirled in Poirot's mind. Was it a taunt from the killer, or a desperate plea from an innocent? The crown's legend loomed large. Betrayal, it seemed, was not just a motive, but a pattern. Lord Harrington had quarrelled with each suspect. Reginald over debt, scattered like broken promises. Eliza, nearby, claimed it was an accident. "I was restless," she said, but her hands clutched her skirt, hiding something, another sketch perhaps. As Poirot returned to the library, a groundskeeper approached, breathless. "Sir, I found a key in the garden, small, like for a lockbox." Poirot examined it, its ornate design matching the study's decor. "A key to what?" he mused. "A secret, perhaps, that the killer fears we will unlock." The night closed in, the storm a relentless chorus. Poirot stood alone, the anonymous letter in hand, its words echoing, man-made. The Crown's curse was no supernatural force, but a human heart, twisted by greed, revenge, or love betrayed. And as the clock struck 10, a shadow moved in the corridor, a figure, fleeting, unseen by all but Poirot's watchful eye. The game, it seemed, had taken a darker turn. Dawn broke over Harrington Manor, its feeble light struggling through the storm clouds that still clung to the Devonshire moors. The manor's Gothic silhouette loomed like a sentinel, its ivy-clad walls whispering of secrets yet to be unearthed. Hercule Poirot, his eyes sharp despite the early hour, stood in the study where Lord Archibald Harrington had met his end. The ivory crown, under its glass dome, gleamed with an almost malevolent intensity, its carved figures of betrayed kings, seeming to mock the chaos they had inspired. The faint almond scent lingered, a ghostly reminder of cyanide, and Poirot's mustache twitched as his little gray cells churned. "The truth," he murmured, "it hides not in the open, but in the shadows of what is overlooked." Inspector Japp, bleary-eyed from a sleepless night, hovered nearby, his skepticism undimmed. "You're chasing phantoms, Poirot. The note, the gun, it's suicide. Plain and simple." Poirot's smile was patient, almost pitying. "Non, mon ami. A suicide does not plant a glove, nor forge a ledger, nor leave the scent of poison unaccounted. We seek a murderer, one who knows this household's pulse." He knelt by the desk, his gloved fingers probing its underside. Stark contrast to her pale complexion. She eyed the ledger with a flicker of dread. "Those initials," Poirot said. "E.B., who are they?" Her voice wavered. "A clerical error, surely. Evelyn Blackwell? No relation." But her fingers twisted her handkerchief, and her glance towards the study door betrayed fear. Poirot pressed gently. "You poured the tea for your husband, oui? And you knew of his habits, handling the crown bare-handed, polishing it himself at times." She stiffened. "I was in my room, Monsieur Poirot. I poured the tea, yes, but Graves served it." Her alibi, already weakened by the maid's testimony of footsteps, crumbled further under Poirot's gaze. Reginald was next, his dishevelled appearance and brandy-soaked breath a testament to his vices. He slumped into a chair, eyeing the ledger with resignation. "Father bailed me out, time and again," he admitted. "Those loans, I begged him to sell the crown to cover them. He refused, called it our honour." Poirot tilted his head. "And this argument, it was heated, hours before his death?" Reginald nodded, his face ashen. "I left him alive, I swear. But yes, I needed the money." The ledger's figures painted him as desperate, a man whose inheritance hung by a thread. Yet Poirot noted a smudge on the ledger's edge, ink, fresh, as if recently handled. "You touched this, monsieur?" Reginald shook his head, too quickly. Eliza Harrington entered with her usual defiance, her modern bob framing a face both sharp and guarded. She glanced at the ledger, her lips tightening. "I found it yesterday," she confessed, "before Father's death. I hid it under the blotter to protect the family. Those loans, Reginald's ruin, not mine." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And the payments to E.B.? You knew of them?" She hesitated. "I assumed business dealings." Father was secretive. Her motive, freedom through the crown's sale, glimmered, but her admission raised questions. Had she hidden the ledger to shield her brother, or to obscure her own plans? Mr. Graves, the butler, stood rigid, his shows. But the groundskeeper's testimony, his car lingering past 9, cast doubt. Poirot produced the monogrammed glove. "Yours, monsieur?" Blackwell smirked. "Possibly. I lose things." His connection to Lady Harrington emerged. A past affair, hinted at in the ledger's EB payments. Blackmail? Poirot asked. Blackwell's smile faded. He betrayed his vows, not I. The crown was my price. Poirot dismissed them, his mind a whirl of contradictions. The ledger was a map of motives: Reginald's debts, Eliza's ambition, Lady Harrington's secrets, Graves' hidden past, Blackwell's greed. The almond scent, strongest near the crown, suggested cyanide applied to its surface, absorbed through Lord Harrington's skin, a method requiring intimate knowledge of his habits. The gunshot, staged with his own pistol, bore only his prints, yet its precision seemed theatrical. The note, with its uneven script, suggested forgery, perhaps traced from samples. A false clue emerged, a footprint in the garden mud, matching Blackwell's shoe size. Poirot examined it, noting its pristine edges. "Planted," he murmured. "Too perfect for a storm-soaked night." Japp protested. "You're overthinking it, Poirot." But the Belgian's smile was serene. "No, I am thinking just enough." He returned to the study, his gloved fingers tracing the crown's case. The almond scent was unmistakable, concentrated at the base. "The poison was here," he said, "applied to the crown, knowing the victim's ritual of inspection." He tested the chalice again. No poison. "Another red herring," he told Japp. "The killer wishes us to chase shadows." A maid, Clara, offered a new detail: a bottle of polish, missing from the butler's pantry, last seen near the study. "Graves used it daily," she whispered. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And who had access?" She hesitated. "Anyone, sir. It was on the shelf." The bottle's absence suggested intent, but whose? As thunder rumbled, a shock rippled through the manor. The ivory crown was gone. The glass dome stood empty, its lock intact. Japp cursed. "Theft lie," he mused. Eliza's face paled. "I lost it days ago," she said, but her voice trembled. Poirot paced, the ledger in hand, its secrets a labyrinth. The EB payments, Evelyn, Eliza, or another? The glove, the footprint, the missing polish, all pointed to a killer intimate with the manor's rhythms. The anonymous letter from the previous night, "The crown's curse is man-made," echoed in his mind. Was it a taunt or a slip? As night fell, the storm's roar grew deafening. Poirot stood by the study window, the ledger open before him. A faint noise, a creak from the hall, drew his attention. He moved silently, catching a glimpse of a figure slipping into the shadows. "The killer moves," he whispered, "but Poirot sees." The manor held its breath, the empty case a silent challenge. The crown, real or fake, was the key. But to what? A fortune? A secret? Or a murderer's undoing? As lightning illuminated the moors, Poirot's gray cells burned with certainty. The truth was close, hidden in the ledger's ink and the crown's cold embrace. Chapter 5. Shadows in the Garden. The storm over Harrington Manor had settled into a restless drizzle by noon. The moors cloaked in a mist that seemed to mirror the tangle of secrets within. Hercule Poirot stood in the manor's garden, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the sodden earth, his keen eyes scanning the trampled rosebeds and tangled hedges. The ivory crown's theft had electrified the household, its empty case a gaping wound in the study. But Poirot's focus was elsewhere, on the garden, where Eliza Harrington claimed to have spent the evening of her father's death, sketching the moors. "The truth," he murmured, his moustache quivering. "It lies in the details overlooked, the shadows cast by lies." The almond scent of cyanide still haunted his senses, a thread tying the garden to the study's grim tableau. Inspector Japp trailed behind, his overcoat damp and his patience thinner than the mist. "You're chasing ghosts, Poirot. The crown's gone, the man's dead, suicide or murder. We've got a thief now, too." Poirot's smile was serene, almost indulgent. "No, mon ami. The theft is a distraction. The crown hidden to obscure the murder. And this garden, it holds secrets the killer did not expect to reveal." He knelt by a crushed rose, its petals smeared with mud, and found a discarded cigarette, Reginald's brand, its gold-tipped filter glinting faintly. "Monsieur Reginald," Poirot said, holding it up. "You were not in the billiard room, as you claimed." Reginald, summoned to the garden, flushed crimson, his brandy-soaked bravado faltering. "All right. I was here," he admitted, his voice rough. "I spied on father through the study window. He was arguing with Graves, I swear. I didn't go inside." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And this cigarette, monsieur?" "Dropped in haste." Reginald nodded, his hands trembling. "I heard the shot later, from the billiard room. I swear it." His admission shifted his alibi, placing him closer to the crime. "Lockbox, perhaps? Or a hidden compartment?" Japp scoffed. "You're building castles, Poirot." But the Belgian's gaze was fixed on the manor, where the empty crown case mocked their efforts. He returned to the study, the key in hand, and examined the desk's hidden panel. The lock matched, but the compartment was empty, save for a faint residue of polish, tinged with the almond scent. "Cyanide," Poirot confirmed. "Applied to the crown, absorbed through the skin." The killer knew Lord Harrington's habit of handling it barehanded. He summoned Graves, the butler, whose calloused hands drew renewed scrutiny. "You polished the crown, monsieur," Poirot said. "Did you use a special preparation?" Graves' face was impassive, but his eyes flickered. "The usual polish, sir, from the pantry." Poirot pressed. "And your time in Africa, with Lord Harrington? A betrayal, perhaps?" Graves stiffened. "I was a porter, wronged by a partner, not the master. But I carved replicas in my youth, trinkets, not the crown." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "A forger's skill, no? Could you replicate the ivory crown?" Graves paled. "Not this one, sir. It's unique." His denial rang hollow, and Poirot noted the calluses, marks of labor, not loyalty. Lady Evelyn Harrington was next, a morning dress heavy with damp. She admitted preparing the tea, but insisted Graves served it. "Archibald was particular," she said. "He drank slowly, always with the crown nearby." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And the insurance, madame? Void if the crown is proven a fake?" Her face drained of color. "I didn't know." But the ledger's entries suggested otherwise. Payments to E.B., perhaps tied to the crown's authenticity. Her affair with Blackwell, hinted at in whispers, added another layer. "You met him that evening," Poirot said, "in secret." She nodded, tears welling. "For love, not murder." Victor Blackwell, recalled, produced an alibi, a telegram, time-stamped at 9, confirming his departure. Poirot examined it, noting a smudge in the ink.
Their faces a gallery of unease. "The crown's absence," he said, "is a ruse. It is here, concealed by the killer to mask their method, cyanide, applied to the crown's surface." He held up the scarf. "This polish, Mademoiselle Eliza, places you at the scene." She gasped. "I admired it, nothing more." Reginald interjected, "She's hiding something, always has." Lady Harrington wept. Graves remained silent, and Blackwell's eyes darted to the door.
A sudden scream pierced the night. Eliza from her room upstairs. The household rushed to find her clutching her arm, a shallow cut from a broken window pane. A note lay on her desk. Betray no more. Poirot examined it, noting the same typewriter's uneven keys as the anonymous letter. A warning, he said, or a performance? Eliza's eyes were wide, but her composure held a hint of artifice. "Someone attacked me," she whispered, but the cut was too precise, the note too convenient. Poirot returned to the garden, the mist curling like a conspirator. He found a footprint near the hedge, matching the one implicating Blackwell, but its edges were too clean for the muddy ground. "Another plant," he said to Jap. "The killer is clever but not invisible." He examined the rosebed again, finding a tiny glass vial, empty but reeking of almonds. "The poison's vessel," he said, pocketing it. "Discarded in haste." The manor's secrets were unraveling, each clue a thread in Poirot's tapestry. The ledger's EB payments, were they Eliza's, tied to her auction plans? The scarf, the cigarette, the vial, all pointed to a killer intimate with the household's rhythms. The crown, he suspected, was hidden in plain sight. Perhaps in a locked compartment the key would open. But whose hand had applied the poison, and why? As night deepened, Poirot stood by the study window, the storm's last gasps rattling the panes. The anonymous letter, the forged telegram, the planted clues, all were misdirections, but the cyanide's scent was truth. The killer betrayed Lord Harrington, awaiting Hercule Poirot's next move. The Belgian detective stood at the center, his impeccable suit a beacon of order amidst chaos, his moustache quivering with the thrill of deduction. The Ivory crown's theft had left its empty case a silent accusation, but Poirot's focus was sharper now, honed by the garden's clues. The cigarette, the scarf, the vial reeking of almonds. "Mes amis," he began, his voice a calm blade, "we are not chasing a curse, but a murderer. The poisoned chalice. It is revealed, not as a weapon, but as a lie." Inspector Jap, slouched by the fireplace, rubbed his temples. "Poirot, you're making this complicated. The crown's gone. The man's dead, shot, with a note. Now you're on about chalices and poison." Poirot's smile was serene, almost indulgent. "Non, mon ami. The chalice in the study, its rim discolored, was placed to mislead. I tested it, no poison. It was untouched by Lord Harrington, set there after his death to divert us from the true method. Cyanide, applied to the ivory crown, absorbed through the skin." He held up the glass vial from the garden, its faint almond scent unmistakable. "This, Inspector, held the poison, discarded in haste." The household stirred, faces a gallery of unease. Lady Evelyn Harrington, her mourning dress heavy with the weight of grief, or guilt, clutched her pearl necklace. Reginald Harrington, his eyes bloodshot from brandy, leaned forward, tense. Eliza Harrington, her modern bob framing a defiant gaze, gripped the arm of her chair. Mr. Graves, the butler, stood rigid, his calloused hands clasped. Victor Blackwell, the antiquarian, smirked faintly, his eyes darting to the empty crown case. Poirot's gaze swept over them, noting every twitch, every flicker of fear. He paced, the vial in his gloved hand. "The timeline, it is clear. Lord Harrington was poisoned via the crown's polish, applied that afternoon. The gunshot at 9 was staged, a pistol placed in his hand, prints preserved. Preparation. I carved trinkets long ago, not murder weapons. Poirot nodded.
Yet you knew of Betrayal, Lord Harrington's, in Africa.
Graves' eyes darkened. A partner cheated me, not the master. Eliza interrupted, her voice sharp. You're all missing it. Reginald's debts drove father to despair. He'd have sold the crown if not for honor. Reginald slammed his fist. And your greed, sister? You'd auction it for your precious Paris. Poirot raised a hand, silencing them. Accusations are not evidence. The crown, it was stolen to hide the poison's method, but it is near, I am certain. He revealed the key from the garden, its ornate design glinting. This unlocks a secret, perhaps a compartment in the study. He moved to the desk, probing its hidden panel. The lock clicked, revealing an empty space, but a faint scratch suggested recent use. The crown was here, Poirot said, moved to mislead us. Japp groaned. You're guessing, Poirot. But the Belgian's smile was unwavering. No, I deduce. A sudden discovery shifted the game. A search of Blackwell's car, parked at the manor's edge, revealed the ivory crown, wrapped in a cloth. Blackwell's smirk vanished. Framed! He cried. I left at 7:30. Check the telegram. Poirot held up the forged telegram, its smudged ink a betrayal. You lingered, monsieur, and coveted the crown. But this crown... He lifted it, examining its carvings. It is a fake. The real one remains hidden. The room gasped, eyes darting to one another. Poirot turned the fake crown, noting a seam in its base. A clever replica, but not perfect. The killer used it to conceal the true crown's role in the murder. He tapped the seam, revealing a hidden compartment. Empty. A secret within a secret, he mused. The real crown holds something, perhaps a map, a document worth killing for. Lady Harrington wept. Archibald spoke of the crown's power. Flushed. I was curious, nothing more. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Curious enough to apply a special polish? She shook her head, but her hands betrayed a tremble. The garden's clues resurfaced in Poirot's mind. The cigarette, likely planted by Eliza to implicate Reginald. The scarf, stained with the poisoned polish. The file, discarded to hide the method. The key, he suspected, unlocked the crown's compartment, where a secret, perhaps a map to the real crown's origin, lay hidden. The killer, he said, is intimate with this household, its habits, its hatreds. As evening deepened, the manor's lamps cast flickering shadows. Poirot paced, the fake crown in hand, its weight a lie. He summoned the household again, their faces tense. The real crown, he said, is hidden by one of you, to protect a secret worth more than gold. The poison was not in the tea, nor the chalice, but on the crown itself, touched by Lord Harrington's hands. He held up the vial. This held the cyanide, applied with care. Reginald accused Eliza. You wanted the crown's value, she retorted, and you'd kill for your debts. Lady Harrington wept. Graves stood silent, and Blackwell's eyes burned with defiance. Poirot's voice cut through. The truth is near, mes amis. The crown's secret will betray the killer. A sudden noise, a thud from upstairs, drew all eyes. Poirot moved swiftly, finding a drawer ajar in Eliza's room, a folded paper inside. A sketch of the crown, annotated with auction houses and a cryptic note. The map is key. Eliza, following, gasped. That's private. Poirot's smile was grim. Private or incriminating? He returned to the drawing room, the sketch in hand. The fake crown, the vial, the key, the letter, all pointed to a killer weaving a web of misdirection. But the real crown's hiding place eluded him. "It is here," he said, "in plain sight, disguised by betrayal." As thunder rumbled faintly, a shadow moved in the hall, a figure, fleeting. Unseen grey cells hummed with clarity. The vial of cyanide, the stained scarf, the cryptic sketch, all were threads in a tapestry of betrayal, and he was ready to pull them apart. "Mes amis," he said, his voice a quiet thunder. "The killer weaves a web of lies, but each thread betrays them. Let us unravel it." Inspector Japp, slumped in an armchair, rubbed his mustache with impatience. "Poirot, you've got a fake crown, a missing real one, and a lot of talk. The note, the gun, suicide's still the simplest answer." Poirot's smile was serene, almost pitying. "No, mon ami. The simplest answer is rarely the true one. The cyanide, applied to the real crown's polish, killed Lord Harrington. The gunshot, staged. The note, forged. And the fake crown, placed to mislead, holds a secret the killer fears we will find." He held up the sketch from Eliza's room, its annotations of auction houses and the phrase, "The map is key," glaring in the lamplight. Poirot began with Lady Evelyn Harrington, her mourning dress a shadow of her former elegance. "Madame, you met Blackwell in secret that evening, oui? For love, you said, but perhaps also for the crown?" Her eyes widened, tears brimming. "I loved Victor years ago," she confessed, her voice breaking. "Archibald knew, forgave me. I met Victor to end it, not to plot murder." Her alibi, alone in her room, was shaky, the maid's testimony of footsteps near the study damning. Yet Poirot noted her trembling hands, not guilt, but fear. "You knew of the ledger's EB payments," he said. "Were they for you?" She shook her head. "I swear, no." Reginald Harrington was next, his brandy-soaked bravado crumbling. Poirot held up the cigarette from the garden, its gold tip accusing. "You claimed the billiard room, monsieur. But this places you outside, spying on your father." Reginald flushed. "I admitted it. I saw him argue with Graves. But I didn't kill him." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And this cigarette, so pristine in the mud, planted perhaps?" Eyes flickered. "I carve trinkets, yes, but not murder." Poirot noted the butler's tremor. Not age, but something deeper. Guilt, or fear of exposure. Victor Blackwell, the antiquarian, sat with calculated ease, his smirk barely masking unease. "The fake crown in my car, planted," he insisted. "I wanted the real one, yes, but I didn't kill for it." Poirot held up the monogrammed glove. "VB, stark against the lever." "Yours, monsieur." Blackwell shrugged. "Possibly. But it fits others, Graves for one." Poirot tested it, finding it snug on the butler's hand. "Most curious," he said. "A clue or another misdirection?" Blackwell's affair with Lady Harrington, hinted at in the ledger's EB payments, suggested blackmail. But his forged telegram, smudged ink betraying haste, placed him at the manor past 9. Poirot paced, the sketch in hand. "The map," he said, "hidden in the real crown's compartment is the key. It points to a secret, perhaps the crown's true origin or a fortune tied to it." He turned to Eliza. "You knew of this, mademoiselle. Your sketch suggests planning." She paled. "I researched the crown's value. Father found something in it, a document maybe. He wouldn't say." Her denial was fierce, but her eyes betrayed knowledge. The ledger's EB payments gnawed at Poirot. "Not Evelyn Blackwell," he mused, "but perhaps Eliza Blackwell. A secret alliance." Eliza gasped. "No, I'm no relation." Her protest was too vehement, her hands clutching her skirt. Poirot's grey cells churned. The payments, the sketch, the scarf stained with poisoned polish, all pointed to Eliza. But the web was wider. He reconstructed the crime. Cyanide, applied to the real crown's polish, killed slowly, allowing the killer to stage the gunshot. The fake crown planted in Blackwell's car was a diversion, as was the poisoned chalice, untouched by the victim. The anonymous letter, typed on the manor's machine, suggested an gleamed. Study or sabotage? As night fell, the manor's shadows deepened. Poirot gathered the household, their faces tense. The glove, the cigarette, the scarf, all are threads of deception, woven to mislead. The real crown, hidden nearby, holds a map to a truth the killer cannot allow. He held up the fake crown, its seams splitting under pressure, revealing an empty compartment. "This was a test," he said, "to see if we would look elsewhere." Lady Harrington wept. "Archibald found something, a document," he said. "He wouldn't tell me." Reginald accused Eliza. "You knew, didn't you? You'd sell us all," Eliza retorted, "and you'd let us sink for your debts." Graves' silence was heavy, Blackwell's smirk cold. Poirot's voice cut through. "The poison was on the crown, applied by one who knew its ritual. The map, it is the motive." A sudden crash echoed, a window shattering upstairs. Poirot moved swiftly, finding a broken pane in Reginald's room, a stone wrapped in a note. "Stop searching." The typewriter's uneven keys matched the anonymous letter. "A warning," Poirot said, "from one who fears the truth." Reginald swore ignorance, but his hands shook. Poirot returned to the drawing room, the charred paper in hand. The ledger, the sketch, the vial, all pointed to a killer intimate with the manor's secrets. The glove, fitting Graves but monogrammed for Blackwell, was a clever plant. The cigarette, Eliza's doing, implicated Reginald. The scarf, stained with poison, tied Eliza to the crime. But the map, where was it? As thunder rumbled faintly, Poirot stood by the study window, the fake crown gleaming. "The real crown," he said, "is hidden by one of you. Its secret a motive for murder. The threads of deception are fraying." A shadow moved in the hall, a figure fleeting, unseen by Jap. Poirot's eyes narrowed. "The killer grows reckless," he whispered, "and the truth draws near." The manor held its secrets tightly, but Poirot's deductions were relentless. The map, the poison, the betrayal, all converged on a single truth, waiting to be sketched. All were pieces of a puzzle Poirot was piecing together with relentless precision. "Mes amis," he said, his voice a quiet blade cutting through the tension. "The Ivory Crown's curse is no myth, but a metaphor. Lord Harrington discovered a betrayal, not of ancient kings, but of his own blood." Inspector Japp, slouched by the fireplace, rubbed his eyes, his skepticism fraying. "Poirot, you're spinning tales again. The man shot himself, left a note, and now the crown's gone. Murder, theft, maybe, but curses? You're chasing shadows." Poirot's smile was serene, almost indulgent. "Non, mon ami. The shadows are cast by human hands. The cyanide, applied to the real crown's polish, killed slowly, masked by a staged gunshot. The fake crown, planted in Monsieur Blackwell's car, was a diversion, as was the poisoned chalice. The curse is betrayal, by one who knew Lord Harrington's heart and habits." He held up the charred paper from the fireplace, its fragment reading, "The crown hides," a clue to a secret worth killing for. Poirot's eyes gleamed as he faced the household. "Let us unravel this web." He began with Lady Evelyn Harrington, her mourning dress heavy with damp, her pearl necklace a faint glimmer of lost elegance. "Madame, Your secret meeting with Blackwell, was it truly to end an affair or to plan a theft? Her tears fell freely now. I loved Victor once, yes, but I ended it that night. Archibald knew, forgave me. I didn't kill him. Her alibi, weakened by footsteps near the study, held a tremor of truth. But Poirot noted her fear, not of guilt, but of exposure. The ledger's EB payments, he said. Were they for you? She shook her head. No, I swear. Reginald Harrington, his brandy-soaked bravado crumbling, leaned forward, his hands unsteady. Poirot held up the cigarette from the garden. You spied on your father, oui. But your debts, they were settled, were they not? The ledger shows payments made. Reginald's eyes widened. He paid them, yes, weeks ago. I had no reason to kill him. Poirot nodded. Yet the cigarette. But I served him loyally since. His admission was a crack in his stoic facade, but Poirot sensed more. Guilt or fear. Victor Blackwell, the antiquarian, sat with a smirk that barely masked unease. The fake crown in my car. Planted, he insisted. I wanted the real one, yes, but murder. Absurd. Poirot held up the monogrammed glove. This fits you and Graves. A clever misdirection, no? Blackwell's eyes darted. I lost it weeks ago. Poirot pressed. And your affair with Lady Harrington? Blackmail, perhaps? Blackwell's smirk faded. I asked for the crown, not his life. Poirot paced, the sketch from Eliza's room in hand. The map, hidden in the real crown's compartment, is the key. Lord Harrington found it, a document, perhaps, proving the crown's true origin or value. He turned to Eliza. You knew, mademoiselle. Your sketch, your plans for auction, they suggest ambition or desperation. Eliza paled. Father found a parchment in the crown's base. He wouldn't show me, but said it changed everything. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held defiance. The ledger's EB payments gnawed at Poirot. Not Evelyn, nor Eliza Blackwell, he mused. A red herring, perhaps, to confuse. He reconstructed the crime. Cyanide, applied to the real crown's polish, killed slowly, allowing the killer to stage the gunshot. The fake crown, planted to implicate Blackwell, was a distraction, as was the chalice. The anonymous letter, typed on the Manor's machine, and the warning note in Eliza's room both bore the same uneven keys. An insider, Poirot said, weaves this web, knowing the crown's secret. He returned to the study, the empty crown case a silent challenge. The key from the garden unlocked the desk's panel, but the compartment was empty, its scratches fresh. The real crown was here, Poirot said, hidden to protect the map. Japp groaned. You're guessing, Poirot. But the Belgian's smile was unwavering. No, I deduce. A new clue emerged. A faint smudge on the hiding something. Always has. Lady Harrington wept. Archibald found the map. He said it would ruin us. Blackwell smirked. Perhaps the curse took him. Poirot's voice was steel. No, monsieur. The curse is human. Greed. Revenge. Betrayal. A sudden noise, a creak from the hall, drew all eyes. Poirot moved swiftly, finding a loose floorboard, beneath which lay a hidden space, empty, but dusted with polish residue. The real crown was here, he said. Moved recently. Japp cursed. You're chasing air, Poirot. But the Belgian's eyes gleamed. No, I chased truth. He faced the household, his voice rising. The glove, planted to implicate Blackwell. The cigarette, Eliza's doing, to point at Reginald. The scarf, stained with poison, ties to the study. The map, hidden in the real crown, is the prize. He held up the warning note from Eliza's room. This, typed like the anonymous letter, is a killer's taunt, or a mistake? Graves spoke, his voice breaking. I argued with the master that night. He accused me of the switch years ago. I begged forgiveness. Poirot nodded. But did you poison him? Graves shook his head, his hands trembling. Not age, but fear. Eliza interrupted. I knew the fake crown, planned to expose it for insurance fraud. Father refused. Reginald scoffed. You'd sell us out. Lady Harrington's tears fell. I only wanted peace. As lightning flashed, Poirot's gaze locked on the group. The poison was in the polish, applied by one who knew the ritual. The map, it holds the secret. A fortune or a shame? A shadow moved in the corridor, fleeting, but seen by Poirot. The killer, he whispered, grows careless. He pointed, his voice a thunderclap. The truth is here, in this room, and it will not hide much longer. The manor's silence was oppressive, the fake crown a hollow witness. The real crown, Poirot knew, was near, its map the key to betrayal. As the clock struck midnight, the game tightened, and Poirot's gray cells burned with certainty. The killer's web unravels. The red herrings, they fall away, and the truth, it shines through the shadows. Inspector Japp, leaning against the mantel, rubbed his mustache with weary frustration. Poirot, you've got us chasing a stolen crown, a fake one, and a lot of fancy talk. The man shot himself, left a note, murder's a stretch, and now you're on about maps? Poirot's smile was serene, almost pitying. Non, mon ami. The gunshot was staged, the note forged, the cyanide applied to the real crown's polish, a slow death masked by theater. The fake crown, planted in Monsieur Blackwell's car, is a diversion, as is the poisoned chalice. The map, hidden in the true crown, is the motive, a secret worth killing for. He held up the warning note from Eliza's room, its typed words betray no more, matching the anonymous letters' uneven keys. The killer taunts us, but they err. Poirot's eyes swept the room, noting every twitch. Lady Evelyn Harrington's trembling hands, Reginald's bloodshot glare, Eliza's defiant poise, Mr. Graves' stoic mask, Victor Blackwell's fading smirk. Let us clear the fog, he said, beginning with the red herrings. The glove, monogrammed VB, was planted to implicate Blackwell, yet fits Graves. The cigarette in the garden, placed by Eliza to point at Reginald. The footprint, too perfect in the mud, another lie to frame Blackwell. He held up the scarf, stained with poisoned polish. This, Mademoiselle Eliza, ties you to the study, where the cyanide was applied. Eliza's face paled, but her voice was sharp. I admired the crown, yes, but I didn't poison it. Poirot tilted his head. Yet your sketch, with its note, the map is key, suggests you knew its secret. She clenched her fists. Father found a parchment in the crown's base. He said it would change everything, but he wouldn't show me. Her motive, freedom through the crown's sail, glimmered, but her eyes held a flicker of fear, not guilt. Poirot turned to Lady Harrington, her mourning dress heavy with grief. Madame, the anonymous letter, typed on the map. But Reginald's presence outside placed him near the crime. Graves, his calloused hands clasped, faced Poirot's scrutiny. You confessed to switching the crown in Africa, monsieur, selling the real one. Lord Harrington discovered this? Graves nodded, his voice low. He confronted me days before his death, threatened to expose me, ruin my name. Poirot's eyes narrowed. And the poison? You polished the crown. Graves's hands trembled, not age, but fear. I used the usual polish, sir. I didn't kill him. Poirot noted the tremor, a crack in the butler's stoic facade. Blackwell, his smirk gone, leaned forward. I'm no murderer, Poirot. The fake crown in my car, planted. I wanted the real one, yes, but I left at 7:30. Poirot held up the forged telegram. Its smudged ink, a betrayal. You lingered, monsieur. Past 9. Why? Blackwell's eyes darted. To negotiate again. But he was alive when I left. His greed for the crown was clear. But his role as accomplice or dupe remained uncertain. Poirot paced, the sketch in hand. The map, hidden in the real crown's compartment, is the heart of this. It proves the crown's origin, or a fortune tied to it. He turned to the household. The cyanide was not in the tea, nor the chalice, but in the polish, applied to the real crown. Lord Harrington, inspecting it bare-handed, absorbed the poison. He held up the vial from the garden. This held the cyanide, discarded to hide the method. The almond scent, he revealed, lingered only near the body, not the chalice, a clue to the poison's delivery. Who polished the crown last? He asked, his gaze sweeping the room. Eliza's face tightened. I handled it, yes, but only to study it. Graves interjected. I polished it that afternoon, as always. Lady Harrington wept. I never touched it, Reginald scoffed. All this talk of curses, nonsense. Blackwell's eyes narrowed. Perhaps the crown's power is real. Poirot's voice was steel. Non, monsieur. The power is human. The household gathered again, their faces a gallery of unease. Poirot held up the warning note. This, like the anonymous letter, is the killer's taunt, or error. Typed on the Manor's machine, it betrays an insider. He turned to Graves. Your hands, monsieur. Tremble not from age, but fear. You knew the crown was fake, yet served loyally? Graves nodded, his voice breaking. I begged forgiveness. He spared me. Poirot's mind churned. The glove, planted to frame Blackwell, the cigarette, Eliza's misdirection, the scarf stained with poison, the wax, hinting at a sealed map. The real crown, he suspected, was hidden in the Manor, its map the motive, a fortune, or a shame exposed. The killer, he said, is among us, their betrayal woven into every clue. As midnight loomed, a sudden noise, a thud from upstairs, drew all eyes. Poirot moved swiftly, finding a shattered lamp in the hall, its oil pooling like blood. An accident, Eliza claimed, appearing breathless, but her eyes darted to a nearby cabinet. Poirot opened it, finding a hidden drawer, empty but lined with velvet, sized for the crown. The hiding place, he said, but the crown is moved again. The Manor's silence was suffocating, the shadows deepening. Poirot stood by the drawing-room window, the sketch in hand. The map is the key, he whispered, and the killer fears its light. A shadow moved in the corridor, a figure, fleeting, unseen by Jap. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The killer grows desperate, he said, his grey cells burning. The truth was close, its edges sharp with betrayal, and the final act was near. Chapter 10. The Final Deduction. The night over Harrington Manor was a velvet shroud, its silence broken only by the faint creak of ancient timbers settling under the weight of secrets. In the drawing-room, the gas lamps flickered like dying stars, casting long shadows across the faces of the household, each a mask of tension, fear, or defiance. Hercule, indulgent. Non, mon ami. The proof is in the details. The almond scent, the forged note, the staged gunshot, the cyanide, applied to the real crown's polish, killed Lord Harrington slowly, allowing the killer to place the pistol in his hand. The fake crown, the poisoned chalice, the planted glove, all were misdirections, but the truth shines through. He held up the sketch from Eliza's room. Its note, "The map is key, a beacon of motive." Poirot faced the household, their eyes locked on him. Lady Evelyn Harrington, her mourning dress heavy with grief. Reginald, his bravado drowned in brandy. Eliza, her modern bob framing a defiant gaze. Mr. Graves, his calloused hands clasped in stoic silence. Victor Blackwell, his smirk faded to unease. "Let us end this," Poirot said, his voice rising. "The red herrings, the glove, the cigarette, the footprint were woven to confuse, but they betray the weaver." He began with Lady Harrington, her tears glistening in the lamplight. "Madame, your anonymous letter, typed to stir chaos, protected your son, oui? But your secret meeting with Blackwell, was it truly ended?" She nodded, her voice breaking. "I chose Archibald. I didn't kill him." Poirot's eyes softened. "Your heart, it is clear, but your silence hid truths." Reginald spoke next, his voice rough. "My debts were paid, Poirot. I had no motive." Poirot nodded. "The ledger confirms it. The cigarette, planted by another, falsely accused you." He turned to Eliza, his gaze piercing. "Mademoiselle, you placed it, non? To shift suspicion." Eliza's lips tightened. "Yes, to protect myself. Reginald's debts made him look guilty." Her candor was bold, but her motive, freedom via the crown's sale, loomed darkly. Graves faced Poirot's scrutiny, his hands trembling. "You confessed to switching the crown in Africa, monsieur, selling the real one. Lord Harrington discovered this, threatened exposure?" Graves nodded, his voice low. "He could share it. I only wanted freedom." Her voice cracked, but her eyes held defiance. The clues converged. The cyanide vial discarded in the garden. The scarf, stained with poisoned polish. The warning note, typed like the anonymous letter. The wax smudge, hinting at a sealed map. Poirot's voice rose, commanding. "The poison was in the polish, applied to the real crown, which Lord Harrington handled barehanded. The gunshot, staged with his own pistol, bore only his prints, a clever forgery. The note, traced from samples, was no suicide confession." He faced Eliza, his gaze unrelenting. "Mademoiselle Eliza Harrington, you polished the crown that afternoon, claiming to admire it. Your motive? Father discovered your affair with Blackwell. Your plan to elope with the crown's proceeds. The map, hidden in its compartment, pointed to a fortune." He produced the map, found in her room's hidden drawer, its parchment detailing a Congo mine tied to the crown's origin. "You argued, poisoned the polish, knowing his ritual. The gunshot staged, the note forged from his letters." Eliza's face drained of color. "Lies!" she cried, but her hands betrayed her, clutching her skirt. Poirot continued, relentless. "You planted the glove to implicate Blackwell, the cigarette to accuse Reginald, the scarf to feign innocence. Your attack in your room, a performance, the cut too precise." He held up the warning note. "This, typed by you, was a desperate taunt." The room gasped, Lady Harrington sobbing, Reginald cursing, Graves silent, Blackwell stunned. Eliza broke, her voice a whisper. "He betrayed me, denying my freedom. I loved Victor, wanted a life beyond this prison. The map, it promised wealth, a new start. I didn't mean, it was an impulse." Her confession hung heavy, the truth unmasked. Poirot bowed, his voice softening. "The little gray cells triumph, but at a cost. The crown's curse, it is self-fulfilled. Greed, betrayal, a family torn." He turned to Jap. The real crown, hidden in Eliza's cabinet, was recovered. Blackwell, an innocent accomplice, held it in his vault, unaware of the murder. As dawn